Welcome into Flag for Discussion, episode 25 for Thursday, September 11th. My name is Farbod Merkazi. He is Jace Hatfield. We got your week 3 preview on deck today for all of you. You know the saying, if someone tells you who they are repeatedly, believe them? Mm-hmm. I think we're getting to that point of the year where if a coach or a team start telling you who they are, you got to start believe them instead of thinking they have potential. None of that makes... Okay, I was about to say none of that makes sense, but I think if it doesn't make sense for you now, you'll start getting it by the end of the show. It'll all come to make sense. I was thinking of a lot of different quotes to open that. I was thinking of either that one or like once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. You want the toothpaste out of the tube, you can't put it back. There's a lot that goes on in my brain, but that was a minute I'll never get back in my life, and Jace won't either. But I hope you all... Thank you.
I've had worse minutes.
Well, welcome into the show. Obviously, before we get into anything, Jace, love to wish your grandma a happy birthday.
Yes, it's 9/11. I always remember it for my grandma's birthday. I think that's what we celebrate on this day.
Yes, obviously. On that note, if you like what you hear on this show, please make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at Flag for Discussion, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify at Flag for Discussion. We're on we're on TikTok at Flag4 and Discussion, on Twitter at F4 Discussion. We got our shots in the bark today. We got a bunch of game picks. We are breaking down Georgia, Tennessee. We are breaking down LSU, Florida. We're going to be talking about Billy Napier. I didn't get a chance to celebrate my right picks myself on the recap show, so I promise you there's going to be some tangents in this show. Before we get into anything, Jace, why don't you lead us off with our picks recap from the last week and last couple of weeks?
So, at where we left off last week, Farbod is red hot. He's been consistently good. He was 4-1 week 1, 3-2 week 2, 4-1 again in week 3. He's 11-4 on the season. If you're looking for betting systems, it might just be tail Farbod against the spread. If you're looking for a way to not make money, it's either tailing or fading me at 7-8. It's time to get hot. I'm ready to go. I feel good about my picks this week. I like where we're headed. I'm gonna get back on the saddle. This is the week it happens. Shot in the bark. Oh no, go for it.
Sorry. I just want to say one thing about my 11-4 and your 7-8. We could look back in like 3 weeks or even next week, and it's completely reversed. So I'm just enjoying being right about some of these games and reading your meltdowns a little bit over text because
you're getting angry.
You've been pretty unlucky with some of the picks you made. It's just been immediately downhill. But I think we're all going to come back to the mean at some point, and it might start this week.
That's how I feel like for every brutal beat you get, you're due for like one lucky one. At least I like to think that. The NFL was good to me this weekend, at least. So shot in the barks here. Farbod, South Florida clutched up. Not only did they cover, but they got the win. You're up to 3 points now. I had Toledo covered for me week 1, and then UAB covered for me. Did not get the outright win, but it was a no sweat cover. They were within 10 points of that entire game. So I'm up to 2 points now. And then our parlay, the Flag for Discussion 4-legger week 2, bang. Where's Mike Green when you need him? Double bang this week after we hit again. So we're 1 for 3 on the season now, 9 of 12 on legs. So when we put our brains together and we look at the slate and pick games, we do a good job. 9 of 12 on legs if we made those singles, but that's not nearly as fun as doing we're not going to fund a yacht or taking our fiancés on a nice trip by betting singles on $5. So the parlay it is Kansas versus Missouri over 50.5. That was a no sweat for us. We were all over the Duckies. Rare. We don't typically bet on the Duckies, but minus 28.5 after Mike Gundy talked his smack. That just felt inevitable. Houston minus 14. A little sweat, but they lasted, and then they pulled away in the fourth quarter for us. And then UNLV, the fade UCLA picks are working well for us. UNLV plus 3.5. They ended up winning that game with relative ease. I think they won by 7. So that parlay covered us for the year in terms of our fees for them. So now we're just playing with house money, seeing how much money we can make. We're not making money through social media quite yet. So, hey, maybe the Flag for Discussion 4-leggers will be our first ticket to some revenue here.
That's the goal.
That's our record breakdown for the week.
I think, look, we've had a lot of success. It's been 3 weeks of college football picks for us so far. collectively, I think we're both doing better. I know you're under 500, but better than we thought we would have been doing by this point. But it's time now for more picks, more game breakdowns. We got to start with probably the biggest game of the weekend, maybe. Georgia going to Tennessee, going to Knoxville. Number 6, Georgia, going to number 15, Tennessee. Tennessee's a 3.5-point dog in this game, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Look, this is a game that historically, if you told me the spread was only 3.5, I would hammer Georgia, because this is a game that Georgia has normally just presented massive problems for Tennessee, for Hendon Hooker's Tennessee, for Joe Milton's Tennessee, for Nico Iamaleava's Tennessee. Doesn't matter who it is. Georgia's been just a stalwart. I mean, Georgia's been a massive problem for Tennessee. Tennessee gets them at home this year. Georgia's a different team this year. They coming off a tough game against Austin Peay, even though they ended up winning. What are we thinking about this game?
Yeah, I'll start with Tennessee a little bit. They've looked really good with Joey Aguilar this year so far. They haven't played, other than Syracuse, who I don't know if we consider super formidable. They haven't had a marquee matchup, so I don't think they've been talked about a whole lot quite yet. But they blew East Tennessee State out last week. I think they put up 72 points in that game. Joey Aguilar has looked really good this year so far. I think we've talked about this a little bit. Once he went to UCLA, I think his name fell off a cliff in the national media and as fans in general. He had over 60 touchdowns in 2 years at App State. He did have 24 interceptions, but he had over 60 touchdowns. It's a lot of football. He knows how to score the rock. And I think people kind of forgot about that, especially after Nico left. That was obviously Nico is the headline, not Joey Aguilar going to Tennessee. But I think all the commotion and drama and attention to Nico took away from Tennessee's getting an experienced quarterback, which arguably is probably what they needed. It looks like, I mean, they just scored 72 points. And Nico's been struggling a little bit. Maybe that's UCLA. But I like the way Tennessee's looked this year. They've looked really good in the passing game. Chris Brazzell Jr., a wide receiver, he's looked like a stud. He started at Tulane his freshman year, but he played at Tennessee last year, kind of got in the swing of things at Tennessee with Heupel's offense. And it seems like he's really figuring that out with Aguilar. I mean, you have a 6'5" wide receiver. That's a matchup problem for anybody in the country. And then I think the running game, they lost Dylan Sampson. Me personally was a little nervous about what that might look like for them. They went from a one-man backfield last year to what they have, like 4 capable backs led by Star Thomas and Deshaun Bishop, who've looked like a really good 1-2 duo. And that they're deeper than that even. They go 4 deep so far. It's only been 2 weeks. So I like what Tennessee presents offensively. We haven't seen their defense get tested too much. Syracuse had 3 or 4 long sustained touchdown drives. Well, now we'll switch to Georgia. Georgia's offense, I feel like their bread and butter is like 4 to 6 yards of play and just moving, wearing you down, using their offensive line. And that's what Tennessee that's what hurt them against Syracuse. But you also think about Tennessee, they have 8 sacks in the season. Is Gunnar Stockton going to drop back much? I think that's where my questions start to come with Georgia. How do you navigate a defense that, yes, they give up long sustained drives, but they also it gets the quarterback and they can give you 8 sacks in 2 games. How do you navigate that if you're Kirby?
I think for Georgia, it still always starts with the run game and defense. That's how Kirby's game plans have always been. I think I want to, before I answer your question, I do want to ask you, how lucky, I don't want to say lucky because he's still come out and performed, so I don't want it to be taken out of context. But how lucky is Joey Aguilar? Because he was kind of the last call. Everyone just thought he was only at Tennessee because he had to transfer out at the end of fall camp. There was no other spot for him. He clearly knew Tennessee needed a quarterback. Nico is not only struggling himself, his team's struggling. And I can't be the one to tell you how UCLA would be with Joey Aguilar. I don't think they would be 0-2. Maybe they would be. I don't think they would be 2-0 though, because Nico's learning right now how hard it is to win when you don't have other talented teammates.
I think Joey Aguilar, he's pretty lucky. I think if he's at UCLA, I imagine they're 1-1, 0-2, more likely than being 2-0. I think he seemed to fit in really well with the Tennessee offense, especially given how late both their transfer, like that trade ended up being. And I also think, I'll say Tennessee got maybe a little bit lucky too. I'm not sure I'm sure as soon as Josh Heupel found out about Nico, it was probably a mad scramble to figure out what the next plan's going to be. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
How do you replace that? Not that Joey Aguilar fell into his lap, but I'm sure after doing some quick research, he's like, okay, shoot, this kid can kind of ball. And now here he is. He's fit really well with the offense. The offense is meshing well around him. They've got a good ground game going, and I think something I haven't even talked about yet. He can run the ball himself, and he has not had to whatsoever in this offense with their running game, which is scary. I think that's something you don't need to do against smaller opponents, and that's usually a good sign of where your offense is at. And that's something that you can bring into a game like Georgia when they're not expecting it. They don't have a lot of film on what does the Joey Aguilar Tennessee run game look like. Nobody knows. So I do think this was almost a match made in heaven that wasn't meant to be, and then all of a sudden was. So I think that's a good point. I do think there was, if luck's the right word, there's a little luck, some good fortune, a Tennessee fan, good karma built up and came out on this. But I think Joey Aguilar is better because of everything that went down. And dare I say it, Tennessee might be better because of everything that's gone down.
I think when you're talking about this game, though, Georgia, I don't know. We've actually never talked about this before. I don't think I've ever given you this take, even before we podcast this. I've been firm in planting my flag in that I don't think Mike Bobo is a good offensive coordinator. I think he had success. He was at Georgia previously, went to Colorado State, be their head coach, did not succeed there, got fired there, went to Auburn, got fired there, came back to Georgia as their offensive coordinator. He had Brock Bowers. He had Ladd McConkey. The offense clearly worked with that group. And then last year struggled. This year it's good, struggling. It's still, you don't know the true identity of it. Last year you were shocked they didn't have a great run game. I'm not saying that's going to be Georgia this year. I'm not saying that they can't win a national title this year. I've just given you this take. I have never been a fan of the Mike Bobo offense, and I thought that was going to hurt them if they didn't have the superstar NFL talented receivers or quarterbacks that they had with Bowers and McConkey and the like. So that is my first thing. But you still got to believe that Kirby Smart, the psychopath that he is going to have that team ready. There's a reason they are 3.5 point favorites on the road in this game. I think everything that you said about Tennessee is true. I think you could argue Georgia's more vulnerable this year. And like I said when I led this topic off, if Georgia was playing this game 2, 3, 4 years ago, and I understand college football was in a different place at that time, they had even more depth, they had more stars, and while Tennessee was really good still, people mostly just hammer Georgia with that spread. I don't know. It feels pretty split right now. And we're going to give everybody our picks at the end of the show for this game. I still think it's more likely that Georgia comes out with a Kirby Smart performance rather than a statement Tennessee game. That's how I'm feeling, but I'm not sure if that's right or if I'm just like believing what I've seen in the past.
I feel like that's what it comes down to. Is this the Kirby Smart in a big game on the road? Because we've seen Kirby Smart dozens of times in his career have a game like this, and he just comes out and they run the ball 5 yards a carry, and they'll do it 45 times, and their defense is locked down. We've seen it over and over. But also, I think we've seen the growth of Tennessee over the last couple of years under Josh Heupel, slowly getting better, slowly developing more as a team. I thought their win last year against Alabama was kind of a big staple win for his career and like proving to his team, like, this is the direction we're going to go and this is the kind of football I want to play. They've been playing it so far this year. Again, it was Syracuse and ETSU, so I don't want to act like they're, the next big thing just because of that, but they've looked really good, and I do think they're moving in the right direction. The big question is, is this a staple Kirby Smart? I don't know what I can on your head, I don't know what I can say on this podcast, but is it one of those things for Kirby Smart? Or is this Josh Heupel taking that next step as a head coach and Tennessee taking that jump in the SEC? Because we've talked about Georgia and neither of us put them in our playoff. And I agree with you on Mike Bobo. Mike Bobo was the beneficiary of having 2 tackles that were drafted in the first round, having Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey. You could name every running back. Holy cow. 6 or 7 NFL running backs from that Georgia team. And Stetson Bennett, obviously we all joke because he was a walk-on. I think he was a dog too himself. So I think Mike Bobo, was he a product of that? I agree with you. I think he absolutely was. And let's be real, those national championships they won were not because Mike Bobo coached the best offense you ever seen in one games. It was our boy Dan Lanning on defense with some of the best college defenses we had ever seen. That's what won those national championships. We'll see how things go. A lot of people are really high on Zachariah Branch. I'll jump into the keys of the game if that's okay with you. We'll start with key number one. I think UGA has to force Tennessee to respect something downfield. Zachariah Branch, Colby Young, Hunter Stockton, the three of them need to figure something out that's more than 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. Because if Tennessee generates pressure the way that they do, we've seen it the last couple of years. James Pierce Jr. isn't there anymore. They still have 8 sacks in 2 games without him. You can't let Tennessee load the box and go after the run game and go after short passes. That's how you get third and longs. And I don't think Gunnar Stockton's recipe for success is 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 10s. I think it's 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s. So I think you have to make them respect something downfield. I think Zachariah Branch and Colby Young are good enough to do that. Can Gunnar Stockton get him the ball downfield? We'll have to find out against Tennessee. That's my key number one. I've got 3 of my keys here. I'm going to hand it off to you if you want to steal one or if you have one of your own.
I think my biggest key is less game-wise and more coach-wise.
I like that.
In many ways, I already mentioned it. A lot of people are picking Tennessee, and rightfully so. They have an excellent team and much better than we thought. We all thought this could be a down year for Tennessee, but it's okay because Heupel replanted his plan on the program after the Nico situation. So we were like, oh, it's okay if they take it down year. They did what they had to do. I think when Nick Saban was a head coach, no one ever questioned who ran college football or like who was the voice of college football. When he retired, there was a space in the ecosystem where there were very important coaches, and I think everyone assumed Kirby Smart would take that point. Kirby is vocal, but he's vocal to a point. He's not as vocal as Nick necessarily. But every once in a while, Kirby Smart gives you that reminder that he's Kirby fucking Smart. And excuse my language. He reminds you who he is and who what he can do with his team. So I think the biggest key for me is coach. How prepared and how angry is Georgia going to be coming out of the tunnel on the road against Neyland, which is one of the toughest places in the country to play. I think the other aspect of it is, can Joey Aguilar play within the offense, or is Georgia going to eventually get to him and pressure him and make him rush some things? Because a big key for me is, you mentioned it, Joey Aguilar was a gunslinger, and gunslingers are great. Gunslingers are so much fun, but gunslingers will throw interceptions at a rapid rate if they are rushed, if they're thrown out of their spot, and if they feel like they have to make a play or have to be Superman. I think big key is, can Joey Aguilar stay calm within the scope of the offense and really make the plays on time, on rhythm, and not let Georgia get to him? Because if Georgia gets to him, Kirby Smart gets to him, that scheme gets to him, it could be night for Tennessee.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. It's actually, that's to a T my third, final, and most important key to the game was, I think Joey Aguilar and Gunnar Stockton are not talent-wise, but personality archetype-wise, the polar opposite. Gunnar Stockton is not going to try to make the hero play. He's not going to try to force a ball downfield. He's not going to gunsling. He's going to take the open flat. He's going to take the open short route. He's going to take the 3 yards on a scramble if he needs to. He's gonna run your offense efficiently. He probably won't cost you a terrible turnover, but he's also probably not going to make you, it's an unbelievable play and turn a loss into a touchdown. Aguilar, as you mentioned, complete opposite. He's a gunslinger. In the same moment that he could score a 70-yard touchdown because he breaks 2 tackles in the backfield and then just chucks across his body the most beautiful dime you've seen, is also where he could throw back-to-back interceptions on key drives in a game. It's going to come down. I think you know what you're going to get with Gunnar Stockton. That's partially good, partially pros and cons to that. I think it comes down to, at some point in this game, Tennessee's going to have the football with either a chance to win it or take the lead and come back and win it. Is he going to gunsling? Is he going to make the hero play? Is he going to be Joey Aguilar and score a big touchdown for the Vols and kind of cement the Vols in that game? Or is Georgia's defense going to step up and he makes a costly turnover? Because you can't turn the ball over more than twice against Georgia and expect to beat them. So I think it comes down to, Joey Aguilar. Can he take care of the football, but you don't need to get safe. Taking care of the football does not mean lose your personality and don't throw downfield. Keep that up. It's just maybe on that 3rd and 8 when you're scrambling a lot to your left, don't be afraid to throw it away instead of trying to throw it up. But you do have 6'5" Chris Brazzell Jr. Not a bad option if you are trying to throw one up. But I think it comes down to that.
To your point, and I think this is my last key of the game, and it's basically your first, but I think, let me know if this doesn't make sense and I'll try to reword it. Tennessee has higher potential. Georgia has more stability. It depends on which one of those comes through. If Georgia could force their style of game on Tennessee, they're going to win the game. Sometimes, I think Tennessee has more potential for more points, but Georgia has the ability to just turn them over, sack them, really push them off their 8 ball. So while I don't know what that means for either team, it's going to be a lot of fun just to watch how they game plan against one another. I will say, I don't have the record in front of me. Georgia has handled this matchup pretty well, and I don't think anyone is surprised. But Tennessee's looked a lot better over the last couple seasons and over the last couple games than we thought they would this year.
Yep, I agree. I'm excited. We'll give our picks later when we hit the picks point, but just as a pure viewership, people that love college football, that's going to be an awesome game to watch. I think that game will be tight. I think that game, Neyland will be rocking. What time did we say we got that one on? We got that 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Beautiful.
Correct.
I'll be getting home from the Oregon game. It'll be great.
Oh, we haven't even talked about that. That's good. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show. But for now, let's go to South Bend. Like I said, like Jay said, we'll give you our picks on the Georgia-Tennessee game at the end of the show, and we'll give all of our picks at the end of the show. For now, let's go to South Bend. Texas A&M, number 16, plays number 8, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a 7-point favorite. That game's at 7:30 Eastern on NBC. What do we make of this game? That's the biggest question for me. I don't know. This is Notre Dame's first game since they lost to Miami 2 weeks ago. Texas A&M has been playing pretty well, but they've been playing pretty under the radar. I don't know what to make of this game.
I don't either. 7 points for Notre Dame shocked me. My initial reaction, I was, whoa, really? I would have thought.
I think it started at 8.5.
So it's okay. So it's even moved back towards A&M a little bit. Maybe that means if you're on A&M, get them now because maybe they'll shift more. I would have thought this would have been a closer spread than that. I think these are two pretty evenly matched teams, two really good coaches too. I don't see much of an edge for either team. And this is kind of opposite of the Tennessee Georgia game. These are two teams to me that I feel like are very similar and have very similar floors and ceilings as each other. Maybe Notre Dame a little higher in each of those two categories, but not like Georgia, Tennessee, like you said, where Georgia's floor is here, but Tennessee's ceiling's there, but the floor is, vice versa. I'll start with Marcel Reed in this game. He is a beast. His arm, he's been off the charts this year, throwing the ball, running the ball. I think he's their leading rusher. I checked earlier today. He's the team's leading rusher at the moment. I don't know how that bodes for you against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got a pretty decent run defense. Miami didn't run it's hard to know what Notre Dame is because the one game they played was week 1 Miami, right? First game of the year for them. And it was also pouring rain, which is just, it's so hard to get a read. Like part of me wants to be like, oh, we didn't see CJ Carr throw the ball much. Yeah, because it was pouring rain, in Miami. It's his first game. And you're not going to have hey, it's your first start ever. Let's go throw the ball over Miami. It's pouring. Yeah. So it's a tough read. My gut reaction though was 7 points is a lot of points for two teams that I thought would be relatively even.
Yeah, that was kind of I almost wonder if the 7 points is because of brand name. I think last year Notre Dame went into College Station and beat Texas A&M. Mike Elko's first game, I think, was first or second game as Texas A&M's coach, was the close loss to Notre Dame. Obviously, Notre Dame has a different quarterback now. They got Jeremiah Love still. Marcel Reed, he pushed Connor Wegman out. Texas A&M began to find themselves. They had a lot of issues last year on the defensive side, even though Elko's a defensive coach. I was surprised that this spread is as much as it is, but I'm also not shocked. I think Notre Dame at their best is about a 4 to 6 point favorite over Texas A&M. I don't know if they're a full touchdown better than Texas A&M.
Yeah, that was the interesting part, was the full touchdown. Especially because Notre Dame being a team that's going to run the football more. You have Jeremiah Love, you have Adrian Price, and from what we know about CJ Carr, he's a good runner too. And I think that seems to be the style of offense Notre Dame's based on Riley Leonard last year. I think that's the style they're going to go with. Usually teams that run the ball that heavy don't tend to like cover big spreads because they don't score as quickly. And if they get up late in games, you rely on the run game to, run the game out, speed the clock up. So that was interesting to me. But whenever I see a spread like that and I'm like, really? And I just immediately really disagree with it, I feel like I'm always wrong. So this game got really difficult to pick for me. And obviously we're not giving that now, but just something I was thinking about. Because I see at the same time, I see a world where Marcel Reed is the best football player on the field. And he throws for 300, runs for 80. Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion have big games at wide receiver for Texas A&M. And they look really good. At the same time, they might only see the field for 18 minutes because if they can't slow down Adrian Price, CJ Carr, Jeremiah Love, and those guys are just running for 8, 9, 10 yards a carry, slowing the game down, they just don't see the field enough to put up points. This is an interesting game. I don't know how I feel about that, Seth.
I think so. I got two things about this game. I think one, we have to understand who they lost to, and I think Miami is a damn good football team. And I think a lot of people gave him grief over Carson Beck. Carson Beck, for a lot of the problems that Georgia's offense had last year, he was certainly part of it. I don't think he was the cause of it, and he was treated like he was the cause of it. There was drops, there was probably poor play calling, the run game wasn't good. He got hurt. I don't think Carson Beck's an elite quarterback, but I think he's damn good, and we need to understand who Miami is. Their secondary and defense struggled a ton last year. Not struggled, they weren't existent last year. It feels like they think that defense is actually a strength, not just better, but a strength for them this year. So without giving you a full Miami breakdown, I think we have to understand who Notre Dame barely lost to in the rain on the road against a good Miami team. I think Texas A&M is on the up, and they are going to be good. And there is Mike Elko getting better players than he got at Duke, so you always got to watch out for that. But I also think we can't forget that Notre Dame was the national title game 8 months ago, 9 months ago, 8 months ago. And look, this game means a lot. For me, it's less X's and O's, less on the field. My pick for this game will come down more to the ramifications of the game.
Baked in there somewhere.
So Notre Dame's 0-1 right now. They have number 16 A&M, so they lost to number 5 Miami at the time. They have Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, USC, Boston College, Navy, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and Stanford to finish the season after this game. Nothing against those teams. Other than Boise State, they're all Power 4 teams. USC's probably going to be a pretty solid team this year. But none of those games are going to be reason for the committee to let them in. And it's I hate the make or break comments or win or bust or must win comments, especially week 3, especially this early in the season. But at the same time, I think the ramifications of this game, and Notre Dame understands it, Marcus Freeman understands it. I think they know they have to win this game. And they know they have to cover and just win handedly, because this might be one of the final measuring sticks that the committee has at the end of the season to decide whether or not they're in the playoff. And it sucks talking about the playoff week 3, but for Notre Dame, who doesn't have a conference title game, that has to be put in consideration.
Yeah, if they come out and look flat and Texas A&M beats them in South Bend, especially if it's by 7 or 14, yeah, I think Notre Dame's going to have a massive uphill battle. I don't want to get too deep into this, but I do think the one safety blanket for Notre Dame is your Notre Dame. At the end of the day, all this, the playoff committee, the decisions they make, it is about money. It is about ratings. It's about what brings in the dough. So I do think, if Notre Dame can get rolling, even if they lose this game, they get rolling. And I don't say that to like in a negative or as a dig. Like that's, if anything, that's your big brand and your team that brings attention in. I think they could still. I think USC, like if they make a staple win against USC, I think that's a good enough one in there. Pitt has looked pretty solid so far. If Pitt can improve, I was just to give hope to Notre Dame fans because I'm with you. I think this is one of the last true chances that we know week 3. But I think as the year goes on, there's a chance that they might get 1 or 2 more shots in there. But
yeah, there's a sorry to interrupt. There's like Pittsburgh could be really good. Like there's teams that they could play towards the end of the year that we just don't know right now that could be 7-1 or 8-2 when they play. I just think when we saw how the committee said they're going to treat strength of schedule. If they lost by 3 to Miami, if they only win by 3 against Texas A&M, and A&M ends up being a 9-4 team, I mean a 9-3 team or 8-4 team, that's already not going to look good. Imagine if they lose to them, you know. So that's what I was saying. What were you saying about ramifications?
No, valid point. Texas A&M has some fun ones too. I feel like their country's kind of caught on to the 8-4 Texas A&M situation over the last handful of years, which unfortunately for Texas A&M is fair. They've kind of been stuck in that world. And Mike Elko, we both agree, is a fantastic coach. We think he's a little bit underrated nationally. He's recruited really well. The Texas A&M class coming in next year is going to be one of the better ones in the country. They're loaded up with 5 stars at the moment. This is one of those games that if Texas A&M goes into South Bend and comes out with a win, I think the Mike Elko Texas A&M train is full speed ahead, which is, and I have been one of the biggest detractors of Texas A&M for the last 10 years. Ask any of my friends. I know you know this. I talk about it a lot. I clown that. It's a program I clown a lot for their ability to bring in money and talent and do nothing effectively with it. Mike Elko is the first coach they've had that I'm honestly like, oh man, they're actually turning this factory into a real thing. And this could be a statement game. This could be that game that in 2 years from now, you look back and say that was the game that changed the trajectory of Texas A&M. You go into South Bend, you make a statement win. That's how you like they're already hot in the recruiting trail. That's how you get all those guys to shut down their commitments. That's how you get future recruits to look at you and say, hey, we're in the big bad SEC. There's 9 other great schools here. Pick us. It's for opportunities like this. It's also, I think, Mike Elko. He was really good at Duke. I felt like at Duke, pretty big win, just barely escaped him, and it was you felt bad for him. Like when they played Notre Dame and they just lost that game. You just didn't have the talent and the size and the athleticism to beat those big programs, but he coached his way into all of those games. It would be, I think, satisfying for him, just like knowing, I'm sure he believes in himself, would be satisfying for him to finally like get players that are up to par with some of these other big programs and prove to himself like, hey, I am that coach. You know, I do know what I'm doing. I just didn't have the players beforehand. He would never say that. But we know it. He took Duke and almost upset like 6 or 7 teams in games he shouldn't have been in. It would be fun to see him get one.
Yeah, no, I think a validating win is definitely on the board for Texas A&M. I don't want to, my whole spiel and rant about Notre Dame earlier, I don't want it to make it sound like I think Notre Dame is going to crush them or that's definitely my pick. It might be, but I do think it's on the board that Texas A&M wins this game or wins it handedly. I think CJ Carr looked like he was a good quarterback, but one thing that we were all excited for about Notre Dame was they were going to bring in the same physicality, toughness, run game, and defense that they had last season with a passing game. That in its own did not show up week 1 against Miami. They had a bye. We'll see how they recover and come back after their bye against Texas A&M. Also, the bye after week 1 is ridiculous to me. Wait, what are we doing?
I think it's that. I think that's the bad side of being an independent because you kind of have to go based on what everyone else is.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say SEC 9s is easy. All these other conferences have like the 9 games basically set in stone that they can't go around. Like last week was a couple conferences did like Big 10, Big 12 situations, or they did like SEC had some games in there. ACC had some like interconference games. You had like Michigan State, Boston College. So when you're the independent, you're kind of like you have to wait for all these other schedules to get made and then find the gaps. So that could just be a downside. But you're right, it is annoying to see 0-1 in week 3 on their name. And if you're Notre Dame, that just kind of stinks in general. Oregon had this last year where they played like 8 straight games, and it was just you couldn't. But like by the end of it, you could just tell how tired everyone was. Notre Dame having two of their buys in the first 3 weeks, that's pretty unfortunate. Just unlucky, but I guess that's the price you pay being independent. But there's so many pros to being independent too that probably worth it.
Yeah. All right, it's time now for our shots in the bark. I think I got to celebrate the fact that mine hit last week.
Yeah, that's big.
I didn't think I was going to get one to hit and not only cover and win. Obviously, Jace, why don't you go over what the segment is and what we're trying to get at first?
All right, shot in the bark. So this is going to be us picking an underdog each week. The underdog, couple rules here, has to be 8.5 points or greater, so 2 scores or more. You get 1 point if your dog covers. You get 2 additional points if they win. Farbode had South Florida last week. They won. He got the 1 point. Obviously, they covered. And then he got the 2 additional points because they won. So he got 3 points from last week. Similar example, I had UAB. They only covered. They didn't win. So I got 1 point out of last week. So we're going for their strategy to this, right? You could pick a dog that might be 9.5. And you're like, I really think they have a legit chance to win, but you run the risk of them not covering either. On the flip side, you could try and take plus 38 and be like, they should cover this. You also run the risk there's probably no shot they win those kind of games. So a little bit of strategy early in the season. I think we're just trying to make good picks. Once it gets closer to the end, and if we're close to the point, then you're probably going to see strategy. Yeah. So if whoever's down is probably going to have to start going for gold and going for pure upsets while the other one's just trying to go for safe covers, which could be fun. It'll be a fun strategy to see what goes down. But so week 3, shot in the bark. Who did you take?
So there were a number of options here. I also want to point out to everybody, we are recording this earlier in the week. I know it will be released on Thursday, so the lines might change. And I'll say this before we make our 5 picks and the parlay. The odds might change for you, but this is the odds we have in front of us right now, so we have nothing else to predict off of that. My shot in the bark, Texas State at Arizona State. Arizona State's a 14.5 point favorite. I don't think Texas State's in the ballpark to win the game, but I think they could cover. Arizona State started out the season. They beat NAU 38-19. On paper, looks like a fine performance. Kenny Dillingham was pissed afterwards. He just thinks things were sloppy. Guys were a little entitled, and it wasn't up to their standard. Last week, we know what happened against Mississippi State. They lost that game. I'm sure they have some things that Kenny Dillingham would want to fix. There's a chance this coming week they go out and destroy Texas State just because I'm a firm believer, unless you are the best team in the country, absolutely no flaws, which there are none really out there anymore in this era of college football. I'm a firm believer that last week doesn't define your week this week. So ASU could come out and kill them. But at the same time, we've seen it 2 weeks in a row that they've had some problems. So if that lingers, I'm not looking for a Texas State win. I'm looking for a Texas State 14.5 point cover. And I want to point out one thing. Last year, these two teams played, and Arizona State, the playoff contender, the playoff participant, the Big 12 champion, only beat Texas State by 3, 31-28. So that is my reasoning. I think there's a very good chance ASU comes out with their hair on fire, destroys Texas State. But I think if there is one that might give me a good cover there, it's that. There were a number of other options for me, like UCLA, South Florida. There were a lot of different games that I was considering.
I like that pick. I think a lot of times people always expect good teams to bounce back really well, but a lot of people forget it usually doesn't take 6 days of practice. It usually takes 2 or 3 get right. Like this, like with your Arizona State, it's okay. Let's just get back in the win column and execute. Execute might not mean win by 50. It just means let's execute. Because like Kenny Dillingham was pissed, obviously, again after Mississippi State, and talked a lot about entitlement and hard work and that kind of thing. So I like that pick. I catch Arizona State while they're a little bit weaker than normal. And like you said, Texas State, they hit them well last year. Texas State's usually a pretty formidable program, group of 5. They're not like the Tulane, Boise State level group of 5, but I mean, you're recruiting Texas kids. Like you're going to be big, you're going to be physical, They're going to be at least somewhat solid. So I like that call. For my shot in the bark this week, I'm going with Stanford plus 12.5 at home versus Boston College. I'm going with the Frank Reich. In no way, shape, or form is this like my take is nowhere near. I think Stanford's a good team or underrated team. No, they stink. Like straight up, they stink. My take is purely Boston College just had a road game in East Lansing that went into overtime. It was like 42-40 barn burner, gut wrenching, physically and emotionally exhausting. They ended up losing. You go home back to Boston College for a few days. Then you got to fly across the country to Stanford. That's going to be like a 2,500-mile trip. And then it's a night game for Stanford, which means a 10:30 p.m. kickoff for the Boston College kids. That's late. Back-to-back road games. You just played a nail-biter OT1. I'm purely banking on catching Boston College just on an off day. Stanford, also it's a home game for them. I'm praying for a cover. This is like, I could see Stanford winning this game like 17-13. It's just ugly. That's what my pick is all based off of here.
I love that pick because to me, it sounds like Miami last year. I know they didn't go out to the Midwest to play their previous game, but they played a pretty emotional last second win game against Virginia Tech. And then the next week they flew out to Cal, had college game day there, a lot of emotions there. They fell behind quickly. They had to come back and win that game. Cam Ward had to pull off some magic, but flying coast to coast for a game will never put your team in a good spot to win the game or to cover or play crazy. I love that.
Yeah, and it's also like Oregon last year when they played at Wisconsin. Similar thing where they had to kind of jump back and forth on flights quick, short-sighted on a week, late night game. It was cold. I mean, granted, this is going to be different weather, but it was cold. And it was like, even though it was two teams that clearly one team is much better than the other team. If you played on any other day on a neutral situation, it would be a 40-point win. It's just, you catch somebody in the wrong time and it can not go well for you. I'm banking on that. Again, this is not I think Stanford's underrated pick. This is, I think Boston College is in a tough spot pick. And Frank Reich, come on, you were an NFL coach. If you can't rally a game plan for one freaking game, shame on you.
Just ugly it up. You got to ugly that up. So our shots in the bark. I had Texas State 14.5 point underdogs against ASU. You had Stanford 12.5 point underdogs against Boston College. Look, we just need these teams to cover to get a point in this game. We're going to be keeping track of shots in the bark all year long. I think right now I have a lead. And
you do 3-2.
Yeah. But look, that might be my only hit of the year. And if it happens now, I'm just glad it happened with the team that it happened to. It's the team we're about to talk about right now. Another game breakdown, Florida going to Louisiana State University playing the Tigers. LSU is a 7.5 point favorite. This is the Saturday night game, 7:30 Eastern on ABC. There is so much to talk about with this game. Is Billy Napier a dead man walking? Is Brian Kelly somehow the voice of reason? Brian Kelly was asked about Billy Napier's hot seat chatter, and he said it's all craziness. He's a really good football coach. He knows his team. He knows what their strengths and weaknesses are. You see it on film. He's building a culture that is fit to his eye in terms of what he wants to do. He's doing it his way, and that's awesome. He also later said, like, what he's building is he has it right now as well, and they're going to be a really hard team. One quick note, Florida did beat LSU last year, and that was part of their rise and part of the reason that everyone was so high on Florida going into this offseason. Not you and me. I give us so much credit. Look, Florida can go 11-1 for the rest of the year. I give us so much credit for just giving the truth about what we thought Florida was going to be, what we thought DJ Lagway was going to be. It's unreal to me that everyone has been just apologizing as if it hasn't been right in front of them all year long. I'm sorry, I wasn't on the recap show, so I have to do some celebration.
I love it.
But one thing, Billy Napier does not. No, Brian Kelly. Billy Napier does not have the program where he wants it to be. Number two, Brian Kelly is the next coach in line for. If he loses this game, he's going to have hot seat chatter. Maybe not hot seat, but maybe questions to answer, hard questions to answer next week. And then number three, whenever a coach points out how great another coach is, maybe I'm cynical. I just think that coach wants that guy to keep his job because he looks forward to beating him. And I think maybe Brian Kelly is truly within the coaches fraternity, truly looking out for his guys, truly loves Billy Napier and hopes he doesn't get fired. I do think there's an aspect of it, like there is a bit of a mess with the way he runs his program, and we can beat him any year in, year out, unless they bring someone else in that really grabs a handle of that program.
For sure.
I didn't say anything crazy there, but I didn't say anything like with substance there. I want to give your take on the game, but there's so much to talk about with Florida.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with the I can say I'll speak from an Oregon fan perspective here. I'll take off the trying to be a media person. The Oregon fan perspective in me, I wanted Kalen DeBoer out of Washington as soon as
Yes.
possible. I did not. If somebody had asked me, oh, what do you think? He's doing a phenomenal job. Get him away from me. That was because he was good and he was threatening to what my program wanted to be.
And similarly, all Oregon fans wanted Jimmy Lake to sign a lifetime extension at Washington.
Yeah. So, it's there's two types of praise in college football. It's I'm praising a coach that I look up to, that's well above me, that's where I want to be. That is when Braun, right? That's Northwestern's head coach.
David Braun,
now. Yeah. David Braun was praising Dan Lanning. That was part, hey, I saw what you did to Mike Gundy. Please don't do that to me. But also part David Braun's a young coach at Northwestern. There's a very realistic chance that he would love to be at a Oregon level program, a program adjacent to that, and be a Dan Lanning one day. So yeah, he's going to give him praise. That's somebody he probably looks up to. That's someone who probably runs a program that he would love to run his program like. Brian Kelly, he's not at Northwestern. These are two even programs, probably in the grand scheme of the last 10 years of prestige and all of that. This is definitely I don't want Florida to make a really good hire because then I have to deal with Florida having a really good coach for the next handful of years. There's a lot of talent in the state of Florida, and as long as the Gators aren't very good, guess who can take some of that talent? The LSU Tigers can. So I do think that this is not him. Also, like you said, he's got the program where he wants it. No, he doesn't.
No.
They went 6-6, 6-6, 8-5. They're 1-1 off of one of his worst losses of his career, and he is on the hot seat. His team seems kind of out of disarray. There's no chance in hell Billy Napier's dream and scenarios. I want to be 1-1 right now with my jaw on.
After a loss to South Florida too. I guess the question is, and I'm bad podcasting by me, I don't have the Florida schedule pulled up, so maybe you can find it. I wonder if Billy Napier's walking papers have already been signed and they're just waiting for the bye week. I don't know when the bye week is, but when we're talking about this situation last year, and I know everyone at home, we have not broken down the game, but there's so much more to talk about with Florida. We'll get to the game. Last year, Billy Napier was fired essentially after week 3 or 4. The conversation was who's going to come in. There were coaching hot boards on all the message sites. All the big media people already had they should go after this guy. They should go after that guy. Everyone in the know was told it's already done. They're just waiting. And then, by the way, there was a week where everyone got a bit of a hint, there might be a Billy Napier AD press conference. There's some politics going on at the University of Florida that makes it harder to fire their coach, but I don't even want to bore anyone with that. I just know I also don't like rooting for coaches to get fired. I'm sure Billy Napier at his core is a nice guy, but at the same time, being a fired head coach in America is probably the best job in the country. You get paid all that money, just sit on your butt.
Oh, I don't feel bad at all. I would switch spots in a heartbeat.
Yeah. You can write bad things about me. I'll take my $20 million and go do whatever I want. I think, look, it's pretty inevitable right now, unless he really turns it around. He beats LSU, he beats Miami, he has some massive performances in the coming weeks and really revives his status as Florida's head coach. I just don't see that happening. I think he could win one of them. I don't think he's going to win all of them. And for me, the question at this point, and we'll bring it to this game, is this where he pulls what he did last year and Florida really just wakes up and they get rolling again? They go on a big win streak? Or is this where the wheels finally fall off and it's just a continuance from last year, not a new season?
They got at LSU this week, then next week at Miami, and then the bye, and then Texas, then at Texas A&M, then Mississippi State, then the bye, then at Georgia. If he loses this week, you're 1-2. Then you go to at Miami. If you lose that week, you're 1-3. I think.
You're fine.
Yeah, then you go into the bye week. I think you're gone. If they're ugly, for sure. If he barely loses both of them, we'll see. Like you said, the key is the Florida president political situation that they have going on there. he might be able to finagle that into buying himself a little more time. If I'm, I don't, do they, is it an acting president currently? Is it a
Right now, they have
1-year
an interim
contract?
president, and
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that he's under contract for another year. And if they don't re-sign him to be their full-time president, they owe him some money. So I think they're probably they're probably excited or encouraged to sign him as their full-time president. I do want to point
He's
out
a
one
Florida
thing.
fan?
I'm sorry. Their AD Scott Strickland, who a lot of Florida fans also want out, he just signed an extension through 2031. So whether like the politics that were a problem last year, where Strickland was on the outs, it looked like, and then the Florida basketball team won the Natty, and then their school president was what's it called? What was resigned, and they had an interim. At least they have an AD locked in who looks like he's going to be the guy to make the next hire. So that might be a little bit more in place for them.
If I'm him, I'm firing Billy Napier, because Billy Napier is going to be the thorn in your side every single year. If they rely on basketball year in, year out, I just don't know if the revenue is going to be enough that if your football's not up to par, you keep him around. If I'm the acting president or the interim president, if I'm a Florida fan, I'm talking to Scott Strickland and say, how do I get Billy Napier out of here? What do we have to do? If I'm an LSU
Yeah.
fan and I'm the acting president, hey, let's keep Billy Napier around. Let's give him that 6-year deal here, make that buyout ridiculous. Granted, all this said, you and I have not been Billy Napier fans in terms of we think that he thinks he's a good coach for 3-4 years now. This is nothing new, and I think this is going to be a tough show for him at LSU. I mean, this is exactly what we talked about. Not a great coach, a lot of question marks on the roster. Potential, for sure. Does potential mean you're good today? No. At LSU, at Miami, Texas, at Texas A&M, a Mississippi State team that Jeff Lebby might have in a better spot than anybody thought at the beginning of the year. Team we have not talked enough about. And then Georgia. That is a recipe for disaster. And it doesn't get much easier at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State, who's much more improved. This is a gauntlet. And if he's under 500, he's got to go. And it's funny because you could genuinely say, oh yeah, dude, 5-7 is not bad with that schedule. And I would agree. But at this point, with how rough the last few years have been and how much hype that they received and how much fans really believed in the hype, I think, unfortunately, the pedestal is too high. And I just don't see a world where he comes out with more than 6 wins.
I think it's unsalvageable or whatever, irreparable. I think for me, that bye week is the real key. Unless they go 3-1 since then, it's going to be a Brian Harsin situation of it doesn't matter if you won. We got to look to the future of the program. And last year, part of the fear was, well, DJ Lagway and all those young kids that you recruited are going to leave. I think at this point, it doesn't matter if they leave. It's not going to work with them here. And it's not necessarily Dallas Wilson or DJ Lagway or that team's fault. It's like, it's a situation that's just not working and you got to fix it. I just looked it up. His buyout's $20 million and Florida owes him $10 million at the date of firing, $2.5 million every July 15th for the next 4 years. So Bobby Bonilla situation.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
yeah.
Well, Billy Napier Day. That's awesome.
Billy Napier. But in saying that, that is not expensive.
No.
If for college people, for you and I,
Mark
yes.
Stoops was like $60 million.
Yeah. And I think Kalen DeBoers is like 50 or whatever, and that has to be paid out in full within 30 days. So that's why some of those coaches that people have been putting on the hot seat already this year aren't on the hot seat whatsoever. Billy Napier not only has been on the hot seat for the last 2 years, but his buyout's low. Once again, it feels icky to come after a guy's job, but it's not less icky when you realize he's going to get paid $20 million the next 4 years to not coach. I think it's irreparable. Moving to the game, do you think this is a wheels fall off game for Florida, or do you think they will come back and make a statement that like last week was last week? Billy Napier's most recent press conference, he made it sound like a lot of the mistakes that happened against South Florida they can't fix. My issue was their offense. We were told was going to be excellent, was putrid. So is this like a wheels fall off game and Billy Napier rides into the sunset in a couple weeks? Or is this Florida's like you sold your stock too early?
If it was anyone but Brian Kelly, this would be the end of Billy Napier's career. If this is a game at Alabama, if this is a game at Georgia, at Texas, there's so many SEC. If this is anyone but Brian Kelly, this is a wheels fall off. Florida loses by 30. Lagway gives up at halftime. Game's over. Because it's Brian Kelly in a game. Brian, like, let me put the storm in the world for you, and then just remember that Brian Kelly has to coach it.
Please do.
You have a better team. You're at home. You're playing a team who is in disarray. The coach is fighting for his job. There's disarray among the president and the AD and the coach, and the players are young and also disarray. You have the other team in a full Nelson. All you have to do is just squeeze a little harder. The problem is the coach is Brian Kelly. Everything is so perfect for this to just be like, it's almost would be easier if you're Billy Napier. Like, if I'm Billy Napier, I'd like just twist the knife. Like, just come on, like, let's stop playing this game. Because it's LSU and it's Brian Kelly, I don't have much confidence that this is the wheels fall off. I see a world where this is like a 20-17 ugly fest, like 6 turnovers somehow. Neither team looks good. It's almost, this is perfect if you're Billy Napier. There's no other elite team you would like. When I look at the top 10, most of those teams I'd be terrified to play if I'm Florida. LSU is like the one that I would handpick and be like, if I'm going to play for my job and I have to make it a top 10 team, give me the Brian Kelly team. Like, that is almost too perfect for him. Unfortunately for him, it's not like, well, I can bounce back against Brian Kelly and then I get Kentucky and then I get Boston College and then I get whoever, smaller schools. It's like, no, you just jump right back into it. And then you got to go play Miami. And so that's why the gauntlet's tough. But if there's one team in the top 10 to play in this situation, it would be Brian Kelly. I don't even want to say LSU because I don't think it's an LSU thing. It's a Brian Kelly thing.
I'm on the opposite side of that. I think this is nail in the coffin moment for Billy Napier, and the only reason they don't fire him this week is because after the next week they can get a bye and give a interim coach a full week. I think this is one of those games that going into I mentioned his press conference where he talked about it a little bit, but he was asked once again, will he have someone else call the plays offensively? And last year, part of his promise to Scott Strickland and the boosters, when they gave him another chance at his job, told him they're not going to fire him, he promised them, I'll hire a play calling OC, and he promised them something else. Then Florida went on a run with him calling plays, and I can't blame him. That's like his forte of calling plays, so he's gonna go down with the ship if he needs to. So he didn't hire a play calling OC. Who called plays against South Florida? Not Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly might have. Who called plays against South Florida? Billy Napier. And I do think it's hilarious that this game is right after the South Florida game. It's Brian Kelly versus Billy Napier, because Brian Kelly, let's be honest, could be in the same seat as Billy Napier in like 4 weeks, or he could be riding really high, but he could, like, he's not had it easy in terms of answering easy questions or rough questions at LSU yet. I think there's a chance that LSU just absolutely shuts down their offense. And their offense has no confidence right now. South Florida shut them down. And I love South Florida as much as the next guy. You and I picked them last week. They were my shot in the bark. I didn't think they were going to shut down Florida's offense. I thought they were going to cover the 17.5. So I don't know. I think Garrett Nussmeier might throw himself into trouble a couple times. Florida has a solid defense. I think in general, LSU at night in Death Valley, that kind of negates who the head coach is.
You would think. Ask Jane Daniels, man. Ask Jane Daniels.
I don't know. I don't know. I just think this might be the nail in the coffin game for.
It should be.
For Billy
it should
Napier.
Be. Everything points to this should be the nail in the coffin game, which is the only. And then I'm like, oh shit, I forgot it's Brian Kelly. Yeah, there's plastic nails. It's gonna just. I don't know. I see a world where this drags on longer than it should due to AD presidency incompetencies at Florida, combined with somehow, I mean, like, this team has a lot of talent. If their defense plays well against LSU and LSU looks like they did against Clemson, Florida could hang around enough to keep Billy Napier around for another game or two.
My one fear with Florida, and it's the same fear that, like, I think we talked about last year off pod, obviously, is that eventually when your fans become this angry and don't get a response, they become apathetic. You want passionate fans, but once they feel like that you're not gonna do anything to fix it, that's apathy. That's apathy, and that's the last place you want your fan base to be. And I think at that point, that's where Scott Strickland has to take a real long, hard look at it. Even if he loves Billy Napier or truly believes that he can recover from the season, if they lose this game, if they lose to Miami, that's when they're going to have to start looking. All right, maybe the season's a wash, or maybe that we can bring someone else in who's not calling the plays, fresh mindset, and they can revive as much as we can from the season. We'll still have a shot at the playoff, even with 2 or 3 losses. That's my entire opinion on it. I'm not calling for him to be fired. I think he's going to be fired. Before we get into our picks, are there any notable games, fun games? Like, I have a couple that are just are near and dear to my heart for this week, but we didn't want to set aside a full segment on them. Are there any notable games you want to talk about?
Well, we'll throw a couple out there. I'll just shout this one: Oregon at Northwestern. I'll be going to that game. I live here in Chicago. There's a good crowd of friends of mine that went to Oregon that live in Chicago as well. So we'll be going. I have some friends from out of town that Farbo and I were friends with from Oregon. They'll be in town. We'll be going to the game. They're doing the temporary Northwestern Stadium, out on Lake Michigan too. So I'm really excited. It's just Northwestern's campus is beautiful. It's right on Lake Michigan. The views will be pretty. It's supposed to be a perfect Saturday. Plus, I have some friends that I've made here in Chicago that are Northwestern. Some of them work for the athletic department there. A good chance to see them up in there. They'll be on the sidelines. It'd be kind of cool to see them working. So that's exciting. I'm excited for that game. Nothing crazy to say about that game other than just a personal anecdote because I'll be there and it'll be fun.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With all the people that I've heard going to this game, and this might be better for off the pot, how much? I mean, the crowd is what, 12,000 fans? How much of that is going to be Oregon?
I was given tickets from a Northwestern season ticket holder. And from what I'm learning, a lot of those are on sale currently. And it's a green out for the Ducks, which is going to stand out. I'll send a picture. I would not be shocked to see 60% green. My cousins that live in Portland are going to be there. I think it's going to be, like 60, 70%.
That I hadn't even thought about that, but I just realized big city, down kind of program. It gives Oregon people a chance to go to a new city. That could be full or majority Oregon fans. The game that is near and dear to my heart, Clemson at Georgia Tech. Clemson, obviously, both of our national title winner picks and our Heisman picks. Kate Klubnik. Georgia Tech's probably my favorite sleeper team this season. Georgia Tech's a 3.5-point dog in this game. It's at noon on ESPN. I don't know where I would lie on that. When we were first talking about that game in our pre-show prep, I was like, what if Georgia Tech covers? Like, not wins, but covers. Because Clemson hasn't been very impressive this season. They've lost and they barely beat Troy. I just think there has to be one more week in me believing in Clemson's national title chances before we fully give up on them. So I guess that's something I might take Clemson to cover that game.
I like that. That's when you were talking about the parlay and you kind of wanted to take a side. And I was like, I can't let you pick a side in that game only because I know how much you love both teams. And I just don't want to force you into making you root for one of your two, not your, one of your two teams. These are teams you were high on this year. I want you to enjoy that. I want you to watch that game and just enjoy what's hopefully a masterpiece. There's no way you can pick that. I do like that that's on the noon slate, though. I thought it's kind of a fun noon slate. We have that one, the Oregon-Northwestern game. Probably won't be super fun unless you're an Oregon fan. But if you're a college football fan, Oregon's going to be a fun team to watch. Like, I say that, obviously, we're fans. But objectively, that's a fun team to watch. A lot of talent. They're up tempo. They score a lot of points. Then Wisconsin-Alabama, I don't know if that gives you a whole lot at noon. So the Clemson-Georgia Tech game, Oregon-Northwestern could be fun games to watch. The last game I'll shout out in this slate here is going to be Pitt at West Virginia, the backyard brawl. Pitt looks pretty solid this year. First of all, the hatred of this rivalry is insane. If you're on college football Twitter, I don't know if you've seen the back and forth between these two fan bases, but it's like the battle of 60 IQs on Twitter, and it's fantastic. It's very entertaining. Highly recommend you go give it a look. One of those games, as we all know, is rivalry games. No matter who's better, you never want to overlook it, and it feels like it's always going to be close. West Virginia hasn't looked great this year. They're one of those teams rocking basically every starter's a transfer. Pitt on the flip side, Narduzzi's got them looking really good. They've kind of felt like they've been climbing the last couple of years. It feels like on paper, Pitt's going to kill West Virginia. West Virginia's look terrible. Pitt's look good. It's the backyard brawl for a reason. Like it's you know how those go. Those are always just dog fights that always come out close. So that'll be a fun game to watch. That's 3:30 Eastern on ESPN.
When Rich Rod got rehired at West Virginia, I think that was one of the only points of his speech that he made sure everyone knew it was beat Pitt. It was like so that if anyone is discounting how big this rivalry is, they both hate each other and they let each other know it. All right, picks time. Let's go for it, Jace. You want to lead us in?
Yep. Georgia at Tennessee. It's number 6 Georgia, number 15 Tennessee. Tennessee is 3.5-point dogs at home. 3:30 Eastern on ABC. I'm gonna roll with Tennessee. I think they cover this game. 3.5. I've been burned on the 3.5, so I'm gonna be smart here and take the home team as a dog.
I alluded to this in our breakdown. By the way, when everyone listens to this, like I said, spreads can change, but we have 3.5 right now. I alluded to this when we broke it down. I think this could be a Kirby Smart reminder game of, like, this is who the hell I am. And I'm picking Georgia to not only cover, but also win the game. I think this is going to be the first, like, reminder of Tennessee's good, but they have a ceiling on them this season.
I like that. I'll if Georgia wins, as long as it's not by more than 3, that's good with me. Yeah, that's true. All right, the game number 2, we got number 16 Texas A&M going to South Bend to take on number 8 Notre Dame. Notre Dame is 7-point favorites at home. This is 7:30 Eastern on NBC. I'm rolling with Texas A&M and Mike Elko. I think they hang in there. I think they keep this game close. I think it's going to be a tight game back and forth. Notre Dame just doesn't seem like a team that's going to put away a team by more than 7 points. That's really good. Not because Notre Dame's not great, just the style of play, running the football. Also, the late game heroics that Miami was able to put on gives me confidence. Marcel Reed could also put those together if need be. I like Texas A&M +7.
I hate that I'm doing this with this spread. I think Notre Dame is going to remind everyone who they are. And like I said in our breakdown, I think how quickly people forget that they were in the national title game last year. And a lot has changed from their program, but what hasn't changed, Jeremiah Love's still there. Marcus Freeman's still the head coach. And CJ Carr, for his warts against Miami, did fairly well. And he at least showed potential. So maybe a bye within that. Now you got a home game against a good team, but I don't think as good a team as Miami. I think there's a chance this is a good 10, 14-point game. Like a 27-17 win for Notre Dame. And I'm picking Notre Dame to win and cover. This is beyond me to make these picks on these spreads, and you guys will find out more. I might go 1-5 this week, but I still feel pretty good about this. Let's go for your pick for number 18, South Florida at number 5, Miami. Miami's a 17.5-point favorite, 4:30 Eastern on the CW. Back-to-back weeks for this game.
They got to have like some contract with the American or USF or something. So originally I picked Miami. I had flipped to South Florida. I can't doubt Byron Brown anymore. I was the one that gassed him up in the offseason. I'm proud of myself for that. I didn't hear anyone else doing it. I like Alex Golesh. Originally, I thought Miami, you as well. You were Alex Golesh too. Originally, I was like, I could see the hangover for South Florida. I could see them celebrating the Florida win, and they don't. They just come in not focused, and they get their butts kicked. But then I remembered who their head coach is and who their quarterback is, and I was like, there's no way in hell these two guys go down without a fight, without working their ass off. I just don't see a world where Alex Golesh lets his team take a week off. 17.5 points is a lot of points. It's supposed to rain again in Miami. Shocker. I'm going to roll South Florida in what I hope is a great game. This is the one I'm least confident in this week.
You know how I told you, one, I can't pick South Florida because I can't get burned by them. If they win this game, I would feel so happy. If they win this game, I'd feel so happy for them. But I already picked them last week. I got that. That's my pick. That's done.
Respect that.
Here's the real reason, though. You know how we were talking about how coaches will only speak positively about coaches that they don't want fired? You know who would love to fire a coach? in-state rival, Mario Cristobal. And you know what Mario Cristobal gets a chance to do? Play both teams in that South Florida game back-to-back weeks. But Mario Cristobal gets a chance to play South Florida, but make a statement against them like, you guys beat our in-state rival. Hey, recruits, watch this. We're going to go crush them. Next week, we're going to fire his coach. We're going to fire Florida's coach.
Billy fired.
Yeah. So what I think is going to happen is Mario's just going to try to do what he did to Jimmy Lake. Just embarrass him, maybe I'm not saying Billy Napier is going to punch a player, but I'm picking Mario and Miami to cover the 17.5. I hate to do that to Alex Golesh, but on the bright side, after Miami plays Florida, maybe Alex Golesh becomes the top target for Florida's next head coach.
That's a great point. And Byron Brown could, if Lagway goes, Byron Brown becomes QB1 there. My one fear with Byron Brown in this game, he plays so physical, and he doesn't need to. Like, if you watch it, he takes so many unnecessary hits, and if he ever makes the NFL, the first thing a coach is going to tell him, you need to stop taking hits. You don't need to do that. Miami is a physical team. If you watch that Miami Notre Dame game, both teams were hitting hard. Miami especially, they looked like they were headhunting every play. Byron Brown cannot do that against Miami, or he is going to be out or banged up early in this game. That's something I'm fearful for. I'm hoping he can last beyond this, but the Boise State, Florida, Miami 3-game stretch of playing that kind of physical football, you got to be careful, man.
One thing we didn't mention in our Notre Dame A&M game breakdown is I brought up, I don't think A&M's as good as Miami. I think everyone talks about how good Notre Dame always is in the trenches. I think Miami might be the best in the country, like collectively. And Mario Cristobal, offensive line coach, obviously. But they mauled Notre Dame, and Notre Dame got their best shot. They hung in there, but there's a reason Miami is so good in the front seven.
Their star Deanna Reuben Bain had an interception on a screen pass to the sideline. So that tells you all I need to know about their trenches. All right. Fourth game, Florida at number 3 LSU. LSU 7.5-point favorites, 7:30 Eastern on ABC. Because everything says LSU should kill him. There's Brian Kelly. I'm going Florida to cover in an ugly game that is going to be disappointing in the sense that it's going to be ugly. It's going to be gross. I don't think either team comes out and looks their best. I'm going to go Florida with a gross backdoor cover sometime in the fourth quarter on like a 27-20 where Florida just sneaks in a late field goal. Just Billy Napier trying to do anything to save himself.
I think this is the game that Florida really just discovers their path. And I mentioned it about 10 minutes ago. This is the nail in the coffin game. And I think LSU is going to come out. It might be close. I think this is Billy tries to keep it close. LSU eventually breaks free. And it's 9-9. To give me LSU the 7.5. I want to point out, we're so far 4 games in. We're 4 games on the opposite side against each other. That's how much you and I have grown. We're normally in agreement with everything. But 2, I don't love a lot of these spreads that I'm picking. I don't want to say that as a cop-out. I still feel great about my picks.
Yeah, no, these were fun because I feel like this year, a lot of the games felt like you don't know a lot about teams. So it's just like I could go either way, and you kind of just pick a side. You don't feel great about it, and you just like, all right, I'm going to pick it. This is the first week where I think both of us have looked at it and said, like, I'm starting to get a feel for the teams. I'm starting to get a feel for these picks. Now, obviously, we're both confident in our picks, which is, that's why casinos are rich and sports books are rich and we're not. It's because of that. But we're starting to get to the point where you start to get a feel for teams. You start to get a feel for storylines. And this is how it builds, right? Let's say Tennessee ends up getting smoked by Georgia. All right, Kirby Smart is that guy the rest of this year. I'm not going to fade Kirby Smart. Like that's, this is the week where you start to really learn about teams. So these are the fun picks to make because you're projecting where I think this team's going to end. And this is the game that jumpstarts it. So it's kind of fun to pick. The week 3 is a fun kind of crucial picks. With all that said, our final picks for number 5, 5th pick, Vanderbilt's at number 11, South Carolina. Vanderbilt is not number 5 in the country. Carolina is, though, a 5-point favorite in this game at home. 7:45 Eastern on the SEC Network, which they do a really good job of getting on most subscription programs. So hopefully you've got that. I'm Ryan Vandy and Diego Pavia. They looked really good last week against Wake Forest. South Carolina's been a little sluggish to start. That's really my only takeaways of why I got that going.
This might be my most confident pick. I have South Carolina to cover the 5 and win the game. I think Vanderbilt, for the most part, they are a much improved team. They are a damn good team against SEC competition. Diego Pavia, you'll see him pop up in our F4D Parlay later this show. I just think Lenore Sellers and that offense, this is the week they turn it up. And they're at home. It's a nighttime game. Give me the Cox. I think the Cox cover this game. Hey, that's allowed to be said. I'm talking about the football team.
I like it. I just wasn't expecting it at all. I was like honed in. I was just listening. I just wasn't expecting that. I like it.
Going back to what you said, this is the point of the year where we start getting a feel for the teams. What did I say at the beginning of the show? Someone tells you who they are, believe in them. And that's how I feel about Florida. They've told me that they are unstable. I believe that. I believe who Kirby Smart is. I guess this is that point of the year where we are on opposite sides of all 5 games. I don't think either of us are going to go 5-0 or 0-5. So we'll see if is a drastic 4-1, 1-4 situation, or like we're just like 3-2, 2-3.
Yeah, it'll. I feel something in my gut says 4-1, 1-4, and something in my gut says they'll be the 4-1 and I'll be the 1-4. Maybe I should put on my Farbo thinking hat more often when I make these picks. Although I'm the one taking the big spreads in my favor because normally I'm thinking like normally I'm not afraid of like a team covering a big spread, and it usually bites me in the butt.
It's the opposite, yeah.
It's the opposite this week.
I think Go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like this is, as the season goes on, our picks, it looks like this. Picks are going to be here. Then I think we're going to get different early in the year because that's when that's when you start to learn about teams and narratives start hitting, you start projecting. And then you start figuring teams out. And I think by the last couple weeks, we'll probably be very similar again, just because that's when you start to really know a lot about teams. So these are the formative, like weeks 2 through 5 are the really formative where we're going to be very different. So as me, who's 7 and 8, I need to get hot, obviously. This is my hope to do so. But these are the weeks where we're going to be different. And then I think we'll come back together kind of towards the end of the year once there's more of a picture.
You need a 5-0 week, and I need me to have an 0-5 week to overtake me for next week's show.
I need that to spot on.
You would be 12-9. I think I would be, or 12-8. I'd be 11-9 if that happens. Look, I don't know how this is gonna go, but right now I'm enjoying my lead. Go for the flag for discussion 4-legger.
All right, we're coming off a win. We're coming off a nice little hit. We're feeling we had a couple last week. Something that's promising. We felt really good about our picks last week. Like each one when we came out, we were like, yeah, I like that. This week, I think we had a couple where we felt that way, and we have a couple where we could, we feel a little pause on. I think the one that we both feel really good about is Duke money line, leg number 1. Darian Mensah goes back to play Tulane, his old former team. They didn't end on bad terms, so I don't think it's bad blood. I think I think the team knew Darian Mensah was better than Tulane, and I think there was a respectful leaving there. Tulane also has Jake Retzlaff. This is a great quarterback matchup, a sneaky one if you like watching quarterback play. Put this game on. Now I'm starting to think the over in this game might have been the play. Maybe we throw that in there too. But we like Duke money line. I think Duke's a better team. I thought the Illinois game, they played much better than the score looked. 2 turnovers in the red zone bite them. They have a good air raid attack. If they get down, they can make the comeback. I think Andrell Anthony will probably be the most athletic player on the field when they're on offense. We like Duke money line. Do you want to give us our second leg there?
So even though I have Notre Dame to win the game against Texas A&M, our second leg is Texas A&M. We're teasing it up to 7.5 and hoping that if they were to even lose, it's only by a touchdown. So our second leg is A&M plus 7.5.
At the time, I think you had Texas A&M at the time. Now you have Notre Dame for the 7. So if you would like, we can. I don't mind changing that one, but that's the week.
No, I'm good with it.
All right, and then third one, which is a lot of fun that I think we both feel pretty good about, and we got plus money on this, which was very surprising. Diego Pavia anytime touchdown. I think Farbo made a good comment. He ran for 8 last year. yet to do so, but he hasn't had to do so this year. South Carolina is the perfect kind of game. I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring. I'm with you. I do think this is the game where South Carolina's offense starts turning it on. I have Vandy to cover because I also think this is a game where Diego Pop, he's just a gamer. Like, that's a guy you never want to count out. And I think we both see a world where he wants it bad enough where he'll just take matter into his own hands and go get himself a touchdown. On the road in a big game like that, plus money, give us Diego Pavia anytime touchdown. Hit us with the last one.
And then our last leg of the F4D four-legger for this week, week 3, is Cal money line over Minnesota. We both simultaneously looked at the spread and we were like, Cal's an underdog. We understand that Minnesota is at home. We understand that Minnesota has looked really good and they are a very solid team.
This game is at Berkeley. This game's
at Berkeley. Yeah, but we understand that Minnesota's a very solid team. We just think, I mean, now that you tell me it's at Berkeley, you're going out west to Cal to play your football game. A lot of crazy things can happen when you go to Cal. And JKS and company, I think, will have something to say for that. I have Cal to win that game, and we have them to win that game as our 4th leg of the parlay.
Yeah, this will be a big hitter. I think this one. Last couple of weeks we've done this on. We've transparency here at the group. If you've made it this far, you deserve the transparency. We normally film these on a Wednesday, which by then sportsbooks have released their boosts for the weekend. So we put it together and use a boost. Don't have the luxury of a boost on Tuesday when we're filming this. So we're going to wait to put that boost on. But at the moment, with no boost, this would win $100. And I feel pretty confident. There's some plus signs in here. Duke money line, plus sign. Pavia touchdown, plus sign. Cal money line, plus sign. I like the looks of that. Because of that, I don't even hate teasing Texas A&M to like 10.5 if need be.
That might be
a little
something
safer.
we might need to do. Yeah.
Because we got the juice everywhere else.
Screw it, let's do that. The second leg is 10.5. That's all I got for this show. You got anything else?
Follow us on TikTok at flag the number 4 discussion. Twitter at F4 the number discussion. YouTube written out flag 4 discussion. Where you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, whatever other random site you potentially listen to us on, also flagged for discussion. It's been a great show, Farboat. I'm glad to have you back. The solo show, fun, sure, stressful, absolutely. Do I miss you? 100%. So I'm glad to have you back.
Hey, you honestly, I don't think people realize how much fun this is for us. It's not just like us talking, but it's once you get in a routine of doing this, you even when you miss one, you kind of miss it. Thank you for doing the solo. I listened to it. Everything sounded great. Everything was great. I was upset that I couldn't react to my South Florida pick, but that's all right. I think I covered that today. This Sunday, when we have our week 3 recap, just a little bit of housekeeping, Jace will also be solo. My future mother-in-law is getting married on Saturday, so I will be a little out of the picture for the weekend. But I will be tuning in to college football games. And I believe next Thursday for our recap or preview of week 4, you will be out. So I will have a solo show.
Yeah, we're going back. This is our last together for a week and a half. So week 4 recap.
Soak it in, folks. Look, we will have, I promise you, we will have consistency with both of us on here. Life happens. But as I said last week, doesn't matter who's on the show, whether it's just me, just Jace, both of us together, one of us and a friend, I guarantee you'll have a flag for discussion popping up in your timeline twice a week, every week for the entire college football season. And that's the best part of it. We got to get Jace to bed. He already did the social stuff. Thank you so much for listening. For myself, Farbod Merkazi, him, Jace Hatfield. Peace out, everybody. Thank you so much.